Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Rebel News live stream on this, a Monday, November 24th, 2025. I'm David Menzies, and I'm so excited because finally, Sheila Gunn Reid, the she-devil with a sword, the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta, has returned to Canada, and I can't wait to hear everything that she discovered in Brazil. Sheila, welcome back to our beloved Dominion. I got to say, you produced so much excellent journalism down in South America. Tell us, what stood out the most?
The general United Nations hypocrisy. Normally they try to hide it. Like, you know, they'll have these things in places that are, I don't know what the word is, more industrialized, more hooked to general sewage systems than Belém, Brazil. And this is not an attack on the people of Belém, Brazil. They were actually the best part of the entire trip, were how lovely the people were. But they deserved a lot better than what they got from the United Nations when I was there. And that was the most appalling thing for me. For those of you who don't know, although I don't know how you couldn't, because a lot of you were emailing me about how terrible my hair looked in Brazil. And I agree with you. I agree with you.
Not
it was
me.
bad. It was bad because it was like 100% humidity there all the time. And the sky would just open up. It would just be hot, hot, hot. And then the sky would open up. I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess this is the rainforest. I should be expecting this. But my hair did not do well at 100% humidity. I like the dry prairie air. But I was at the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Belém, Brazil, and we were accredited for the event. However, they decided at the last minute that, well, we could be accredited, but definitely not for the conference right there. We could come 2 weeks earlier for the leaders event. I'm like, well, thanks.
Wait a minute. So they thought we're living in a Star Trekian world where we can bend the time-space continuum and go back in time 2 weeks so you could be accommodated? Yeah. Are you serious?
Yes, 100%. And they said, oh, but we would let you in right now if you would attach yourself to a government, like if your government would allow you to come in with them. And I'm like, we're here as critics of them and this entire thing. So most definitely not. We're independent journalists. We will not rely on the government to accredit us, or if we attached ourselves to an NGO. And that just was not the case. I mean, I suppose I could have leaned on our friends at Climate Depot to get in, but they had already gone. Okay. So, but anyways, it's all besides Sheila, the point. It's besides the point.
To me, it's a moot point because you were prior to your trip, and it was such an arduous trip from northern Alberta to Brazil.
David, I don't even want to explain how bad the flights were, and then how bad the flights were to get home, and they're like missing connections. And like, it was just, when you have 55,000 people flying into a place and then all trying to fly out at the exact same time, for me to have gotten a trip, like a flight home that would have been less physically taxing than mine, like it took me almost 4 days to get home.
Unbelievable.
It would have been like a $15,000 flight, and we weren't paying that. I was like, no, I'm tough as nails. I can do this, and so I did.
And they don't care that you did that. Two things. One is, first of all, I love what the humidity did to your hair. It looks like one of those $400 Yorkville hair salon clips. I thought you looked
I'm better now at the 0% humidity and the static electricity, but it was like sweltering. Yeah. But you wouldn't know that from the kept journalists who were sitting inside the air-conditioned plaza that did eventually burn down. But that's another part of the story.
Yeah, maybe that is even more proof there is God. But the second thing, Sheila, and this is important. I don't know. I mean, I have no skin in the game aside from you being my beloved colleague. But it's important to note you were pre-approved. You were given credentials.
Yep. So, we show the emails in all of our reports. We were approved. And then you're at the whim of the United Nations once you get there. And it's like, no, you shall not pass, and you can't record at the accreditation desk because it's a high security place, right? And look, I understand that. And then it's like the military police and the armed guards are like, okay, out you go, right out that way.
So Sheila, here's the question. Who was behind making sure you didn't get in when you were pre-approved? Who's the assassin here?
Well, if history is any predictor, I would guess it was the Canadian government. We know that the Canadian government complained to the United Nations back in 2016 after I asked a chief, I think it was Derek Nepenak. Anyways, he was standing in the middle of the climate change venue, and he was like, yeah, and they're poisoning our people, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm going to ask some questions about this because I know a little thing about Indigenous relations in the oil and gas sector. And so I was like, oh, where are you from? Oh, Manitoba. I'm like, what do you have to do with the oil and gas sector? You're an Indigenous chief from Manitoba. What are you talking about? What are you here doing, trying to unemploy the people of Mikisew, Fort McKay, Cold Lake First Nation? Like, how does this even affect you? Except you're a useful idiot.
Because you asked impolite questions, you are journalist non grata now.
Yeah, I was banned for harassment.
And to quote, harassment. And
yeah.
So it's the Who song, isn't it, Sheila? Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Carney's in charge now. When that happened, it was blackface, but it's standard procedure. How shameful! But anyways,
you know what? It didn't matter. I was fully prepared to do good journalism from the outside anyway, and I think I did. city wriggling with foreign journalists. Not one of them decided to go see the highway cut through the rainforest. And it did take some actual journalism to find that thing, because you had to find it on Google Earth, because it's not on Google Maps, because it's not finished yet, because they were building it to alleviate the traffic for the climate change conference.
Wow.
But it's not done. You can see it's not finished. I don't know how those little cars go off-roading, but they did. And we found it on Google Earth, and we had to find like a place that was nearby so we could get a ride to the place nearby, get out, and then hike up to the construction site so there's the Google Earth. And then so we found a place that was close, got a ride, and then hiked in the 34-degree heat to show people what the journalists of the world wouldn't. And we also showed where the journalists of the world were staying on those really nice 2 cruise ships on a multi-million-dollar high security dock that they built for them, because they didn't like the local accommodation. So they stayed out there.
Wow.
They didn't want to show anybody that. And they certainly didn't want us pointing out the sewage outflows, untreated sewage outflows that was going right past the old cruise ships into the Atlantic, and then sort of backwashing into the Amazon rainforest.
And Sheila, my final point on this is the perverse irony here in the UN doing you a colossal favor in being censorious thugs.
We found those. No, but not a single journalist went out and found those.
Exactly. And just think how bored to tears you would be in that air condition, listening to all these sanctimonious diplomats drone on.
God, could you imagine?
They did you the biggest favor, and you did the best journalism of any journalist there, bar none.
I think one of the pieces of journalism that I'm most proud of, and there's a bit of a backstory for it, and you could sort of tell in the video it's kind of rushed, but we didn't have a choice, is we saw in local Instagram stories in Portuguese that they were complaining that the United Nations was dumping their garbage in a local favela. Jeez. Out of sight, out of mind, we'll just dump it on the poor people. They don't care. So we saw in the background of this Instagram story this very noticeable building, and we knew the neighborhood of the favela. So then we got on Google Earth, found the building, and we hired a driver, and we asked him to wait, and he said, "You guys have 2 minutes. I'm not waiting. I'm going to get carjacked."
What? So, is it that dangerous?
Yeah. This is Belém is one of the. It depends on the year. But this is our work we did on Google Earth. It's one of the top 24, depending on the year, most dangerous cities in the world. Ooh. And so he said, "I'll give you 2 minutes." So we were like, fine, we're running. We ran, and we were sort of dejected. We were like, we just saw how the sewage outflows and everything in this neighborhood. By the way, this neighborhood, COP redirected all their sewage through their neighborhood.
What?
Yeah. So, and I say COP, I mean Conference of the Parties. That's the United Nations Climate Change Conference. So we're running back, and I look at Kian, and I'm like, right there. There's the signage. The locals had this was their little dumping site, and the locals had started picking through the garbage to use it, and there's where they're stacked up all the United Nations signs right there. Wow. And that was just on our way back to the driver, and the driver was sort of pulling ahead, we found it, we're coming. He wasn't going to wait for us. He said he was going to be carjacked. So
what a farce. The whole thing's a farce. I mean, Sheila, do you think there's any reason for us to keep going to these things? It's the same hypocritical nonsense.
Yeah, as long as they remain hypocrites, I'm going to do my best to keep exposing it. Belém, though, has been the worst, because the amount of money invested in the climate change conference should have been spent to make the lives of the people of Belém better. You shouldn't be building infrastructure for your conference so that all the fancy people of the world are comfortable when 60% of the people in the city live in a favela, a slum, and when only 4% of the sewage is treated, under 4%, and only 20% of it is captured. When you flush the toilet, it's not see you later, or it's not see ya, it's see you later. You can go downstairs and see where it's they have open gutters there of sewage. And that I found it so angering, because you know, you can build, apparently you can build infrastructure, just not for the people who live here.
Oh my God. And
Anyway.
that might explain why you told me off camera you're feeling a little queasy.
I'm very sick, actually.
Yeah, I'm
I
sorry
have
to
the
hear
stomach
that.
virus. It's okay. I'm powering through. I came home very sick, and I was glad that I didn't fully get, like, I was starting to feel gross as I was traveling, and I thought, oh, it's just because of the horrible travel that I had to endure to get home, because just to get home I had to go like from the top of Brazil to the near bottom of Brazil and then back up. Anyways, I made it home. I thought it was jet lag. It's definitely not jet lag. But anyways, if you want to see my reports, people at home, and if you want to support our trip there, because like I'm telling you, it was so expensive. And we did, as I explained right now, we did our very best to keep the costs as low as possible. But if you think our journalism was important, and I do, I'm actually really proud of the work that we did, you can support us at rebelun.com.
There you go. And I guess we went off on a tangerine, but
I
it was
should
well
tell
worth
everybody
it.
what we're doing.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm sad that you didn't tell me what day it was, David. Did you have a little?
Oh, I was too excited to see
Okay,
you
good.
back, and I know it is National Play Day with Dad Day, yeah, I know. Are we still allowed to use the word dad? You know,
I don't know.
and you know why I say that? I cycle past this area in Richmond Hill. It's under construction, and it used to be slow down. My dad works here, and then and it's maybe 99% of the workers are male. In fact, I've never seen a female construction worker. Then they made
Flaggers.
it equal signs. Slow down. My mom works here. And I guess somebody complained, Sheila, because they went, Mom, Dad, that's not inclusive enough. I'll take a picture next time I'm on this street. Now it's slow down. Somebody I love works here. Just a somebody.
God.
No mom, no dad. It's a somebody.
At least it didn't say slow down. My lactating parent works here. It's just the constant erasure of parents in society. I'll tell everybody what we're doing, and then we need to get into the show because both you and I are unable to go along today.
Yep.
If you are watching the show over on Rumble, thank you so much for watching us over there. If you want to have your say, support our work, leave a Rumble rant. That's their paid chat over there. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, we'll read it on air. Generally, we make time permitting, of course, for the chats that fall under that, because we realize you're choosing us when you could choose anybody. And if you are watching us over on YouTube, thank you so much for watching us over there too. The same rules apply. Their chat is called Super Chat. And if you miss the live version of the show, you can leave a super thanks. That's their paid comment. And I'm very sad that I was on those terrible, terrible flights on my way home because I missed something I would have loved to attended, and that was farmers' protests and the allies of farmers in support of the ostrich massacre of Edgewood, BC. And our Drea Humphrey was in attendance at the one in Kelowna, and then we also had Angelica out at the one in Calgary, and then Efron in Burlington. So it was nationwide protests. You'd think the national media would care,
No.
but wherein three unionized workers shed a tear, the CBC will be there to document it all. But when there's a grassroots farmers uprising for property rights, for animal welfare, they couldn't give a damn.
No, Sheila, they do give a damn. They want the ostriches killed. And I heard
Oh yeah, they're bloodlust. The bloodlust for the ostriches has been quite something to see.
And that's not conjecture. Before the slaughter, I heard a personality on News Talk 1010, that's the biggest AM radio station in Toronto, say, kill the damn birds already. All right.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah. That tells you where they are.
And when I see these experts who are like, oh, we want to get rid of these birds, immediately I just go to opencanada.ca and I start searching for how many grants these people have been given. And it's usually in the millions. These paid experts telling you to butcher the birds because they know they're careers depend on it. It's just like watching the CBC. Let's go into Drea's.
Yes.
She's farming freedom protest in Kelowna following the brutal massacre of 300 plus ostriches by the CFIA. She's got a bunch of people. She guesses 200 in Kelowna, but this is 200 just in Kelowna. There were satellite protests everywhere across the country. Langley, BC had another 200. Kitts Beach. Let's go into the first one on the list there. And then maybe we'll go to the one BC party candidate after that.
Okay, that's our group from Vernon and Kamloops, Salmon Arm, met up with Kelowna, apparently Penticton. Probably close to 300 people here now, and more people arriving all the time.
I'm going to give everybody a little tip at home. When you're capturing a crowd, slow down. Just slow down. I'm saying this as somebody who's battling severe nausea right now. Slow down. Just slowly, or even just linger and then pan, and then linger and pan, just for the viewer's sake. But yeah, 200 to 300 people there in, that was in Kelowna. We've got people shouting down the CFIA in Langley, BC. Let's go to that.
He's taken every single one of us, our economy, down as quickly as he can.
Who's this? Oh, this is the one BC
And 2030
candidate.
is just around the corner, everybody.
Supply is killing us.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
You know what? We have how many crises going on? We got a healthcare crisis, an opioid crisis, a housing crisis. Inflation is killing us. That's right. So how about another one? Hey, hey, ho, ho, farmers say it's time to roll. Hey, hey, ho, ho, farmers say it's time to roll. Hey, hey.
So that was, I guess that was James Davison. He's a one BC party candidate. That's the party started by Dallas Brody. I would, through my Alberta lens, I would describe them as akin to the Wild Rose, wherein the Conservative Party there has lost their way, and so they're trying to drag the Conservative movement back right. I should say that outside of BC, and then we've got Efron in Burlington, Angelica in Calgary. There was one west of Edmonton that I wish I could have been to. It was in Atchison. I saw on Chris Scott of the Whistle Stop. He covered that, and I also know that there was a sizable one in Regina because Lise was there, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. But lots of Rebel love out there. Somebody stuffed $50 in her kid's hand and said, throw that in the pot for Rebel News. So lots of love for Rebel News with these things. And why wouldn't there be? I think we were probably among the only media with a national presence to treat these people with any kind of respect or fairness.
And Sheila, I have a theory I want to run by you, why that is in terms of the media shunning this or denouncing it and being on the side of the CFIA, and the fact that big prominent animal rights groups, so-called, like PETA, they sat this one out. When I see all those images you just showed in those various locations, if you didn't tell me it was an ostrich protest and if you're telling me, guess what this is, I would say, oh, it's satellite trucker convoy freedom protests. There's very much that vibe. I bet you most of the people there supported the freedom convoy. So, that's a little too out there for the lefties, that even though we're all supposed to, regardless of politics, love animals and want the best for animals, and at least want the best animal husbandry practices to be made, because of the politics, that's why I think they were not carrying a torch for these protests.
Sure, the politics of the ostriches were all wrong, so they must die, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can't have a bank account if your politics are wrong in this country. You can't own property. You can't have a business if your politics are wrong in this country. Even dogs are asking, where do we draw the line? If the CFIA can gun down hundreds of innocent ostriches, who's next? Don't give these people any ideas. We've already heard them. I think it was in the CBC where they're musing about, well, you know, cats might get the avian flu because they're outside eating birds. And so maybe we should be worried about house cats. I promise you, over my dead body do they come for trigger. You will scratch them to pieces, to ribbons. You think those stupid little Stay Puft Marshmallow Man suits are going to protect the CFIA from an angry trigger? I don't think so.
Well, Sheila, traveling up the food chain, ultimately with some people in this government, how far away are we from, you know, rounding up people with undesirable questions and opinions, you know, putting them in a camp for their own protection? Gee, it sounds familiar. Who did that in the past? But with all the censorious bills coming out of Ottawa,
Oh, God.
you know, I can see that future, jail time for going on social media and espousing the wrong opinions.
We're almost already there.
Yeah.
Like we're almost already there with their revamped Online Harms Act. We've got, let's show another vid from Angelica,
Yes.
where she says, and I just want to point out something I noticed just watching this now versus Drea's. Drea's looks like Freedom Convoy Canada Day, you know, like now look at Angelica's. This Canada-wide CFIA protest just kicked off here in Calgary. Crowds are gathering, demanding answers from the ostrich call. You notice something different about the flags around there?
The provincial flag.
Yeah, there's like one lone Alberta flag. It's all blue. We don't really fly the Canadian flag around here.
I think
That
you meant
much
to say
anymore.
one lone Canadian flag, Sheila.
Yeah, there's one lone Canadian flag. We don't and it's not that we're not patriotic. We just have a different viewpoint about what patriotism means. And yeah, we're flying the blue instead of the red.
Interesting. Yeah, and I completely understand the sentiment, you know.
Yeah.
But well, it just goes to show you the ostriches might be long gone, but this story still resonates.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm sure there must be freedom of information requests in the pipeline right now to find out how this atrocity ever happened. And it was an atrocity. And, you know, and I keep going back, Sheila, to last month when our beloved boss man, Ezra Levant, put that minister on the hot seat with a question. Since RFK Jr. is interested in this issue, why not entertain those concerns and opinions as a way to get our foot back in the door for, you know, renegotiating a trade deal and taking care of the tariff tiff? And Ezra didn't even get an answer. Not
No.
like a bafflegab answer of word salad. She did not answer. And I thought it was an absolutely valid question. And I wish the journalist behind Ezra repeated the question. But no, we don't want to just, you know, offend the sugar daddies of mainstream media,
Well,
do
that's
we?
like in the before times. Journalists probably would have stood together and said, actually, I'm not going to ask my question until you answer his.
Yes.
But that's not how it is anymore.
Nope.
They know who butters their bread. We've got one. Let's go to this one from Efron. It's the third one, or sorry, it's the second one in the three of Efron's, just for time. During the speeches given by ostrich supporters at the Toronto portion of the Canada-wide CFIA protest, some gave protest to independent media and Rebel News for raising awareness to farmers.
Initially in the night, it was done in the dark so nobody would know, and then you see a convoy of vehicles going in and out, and then in the morning you hear another hundreds of shots because a lot of the birds didn't die, so it wasn't done humanely. More and more information is coming out about what happened, and this has been going on for probably more than 15 years. It's just that this finally win through the media, and thank God for people like Rebel News. Thank you. Thank you for covering this, because we need to let people know what's going on, and farmers need to stand by each other, and people need to stand by farmers. We all need food to live. At least let it be done humanely. Thank you.
Well, wasn't
Again,
that nice,
lots
that
of
little shout
Canadian
out?
flags and lots of Canadian flags. Tons
Yeah.
of Canadian flags. You go to the Alberta one and it's like and I think Saskatchewan was sort of the same. They just had the green and gold in Saskatchewan. They didn't really have too many Canadian flags.
Yeah. And you know, it was nice to get that recognition. And
For sure.
you know,
It's Drea's hard work.
I'll do a Barry Horowitz pat on the back. Not that I had anything to do with it. It was Drea Humphrey and Sid Fizzard, and of course you, Sheila, that went out
was
on
out
the
there to
ground.
Yeah.
Under it wasn't quite the conditions you endured in Brazil, but it was no luxury hotel stay either.
No, I brought my own hotel. Again, in an effort to keep costs low.
Yeah.
I always bring my own accommodation. So you're not even paying for me to rent a camper or anything, or a camper van. As Drea, that's how she travels. She rents a camper van and then stays on location. I brought my own trailer on 2 separate occasions. I've hauled the big one the second time, and then the little one, my project trailer that I built. I brought that the first time just so that I could get there as quick as possible. But again, me keeping costs low, because we're crowdfunded and we're not the CBC.
Oh, you don't think Rosemary Barton would get behind the wheel of a camper van and drive out to the farm?
Oh, she might, but it would be like a Metallica style diesel pusher. You know what I mean? Like
one of these $2
a
million
tour bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, a tour bus, not my little, as my kids call the green bean bed on wheels. That's my little micro trailer with the little kitchen that I built in the back, or my holiday trailer. Yeah, I can't see her hauling one of those through the mountains to get there and then staying at Ostrichapalooza like I did.
Yeah.
Let's an ad break.
Sure.
And we'll come back and we'll hit some of the other headlines.
All right.
You like the hat? Me too. Same strong message about making Canada great again, but in a really cool color, black and gold. There's other colors available, and it's an all-Canadian site. So if you want to signal your tribe or trigger a Liberal, go to mcgahats.ca.
Gun bans make great distraction.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same
We
rhetoric.
will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of
Hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted, while criminals run wild under Liberal policy. But we are fighting back. Join us, Canada's National Firearms Association, in defense of freedom.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.
And Sheila, I see a poll shows that newcomers want Canada to admit fewer, that's right, fewer immigrants. You know, Sheila, I'm not surprised. We have an excellent source. It's not his real name, Ted Smith. He's originally from India. He has tipped us off for some incredible stories. He's tipped off the mainstream media too, like the Globe and Mail. Things like, you know, the diploma mill racket in Brampton, and, you know, the temporary foreign worker program. And one of the things he said to me, I'll never forget, Sheila, at least because he's tied into what's happening in India. He said, Dave, if you think, you know, the immigrants you're getting from India are doctors, lawyers, engineers, which used to be the case. No, they're not coming. They don't see Canada as a serious country anymore. It's a different kind of cat coming, and he's blowing the whistle. So this isn't me, Mr. White Bread, born in Canada, sounding the alarm. This is somebody from India talking about this. So I'm not surprised by this data.
underclass. Now, that's sort of what they've done in Dubai, except the difference between Dubai and Canada is that Canadians still need to work and Emiratis don't. And so our low-skilled slave underclass is driving down the wages for everybody else. It's simple supply and demand. But apparently, the immigrants, so not your temporary foreign workers, not your foreign students that are coming here, but people who are going through the process to become Canadian nationals, naturalized Canadians, are getting here and saying, this is not quite what we signed up for, because there's a whole heck of a lot of us around and we can't get housing, access to healthcare, access to education. Class sizes are out of control. Newcomers are saying no thanks. 4 in 10 newcomers say Canada should let in fewer than 10,000 or 100,000 a year. That's like 1/10 of what we're letting in right now. The federal budget tabled earlier this month sets the target for new permanent residents at 380,000 per year, and slashes in half the number of temporary foreign residents that will be allowed into the country. But they just aren't doing that. They're saying these are our targets, but they're not meeting them, and there's no consequences for not meeting them. Like, the immigration minister should be fired if they're not meeting the immigration targets. They just get promoted laterally in this government.
But Sheila, those numbers were irresponsible and unsustainable for a country of our population. And the proof is in the pudding, as you alluded to. Look at what's happened in the housing market. Look at healthcare. Times, to see someone forever increasing. The labor market, I mean, last June when you have the National Post do a front page story, the death of the summer job, what does that tell you about our immigration policy?
Right. Well, 2/3 of newcomers, 2/3 of people who chose Canada to become Canadian citizens, these are permanent residents on the pathway to become Canadian citizens. 2/3 of them are saying that you're letting too many people in. I would love to hear the mainstream media and the liberals, although I make a distinction and I probably shouldn't. I would love for them to call these people racists. These are not your people like me, 5th generation raising the 6th generation Albertans on the same land. These are people who chose Canada and they're not from here, and they're saying you're letting too many people in, and we're losing our Canadian cultural identity that they wanted to be a part of.
And I see the other headline on this file, Sheila, New Brunswick, of all places, receiving record number of asylum claims. What's going on in New Brunswick?
So the federal government reported last week that overall asylum numbers are declining, and we're just supposed to take their word for it. And New Brunswick is like, no. Where are they declining? Because it ain't here. So the numbers, and what New Brunswick is saying is that the years before were the highest years, and this is the highest year ever. So they said it's been roughly 255 asylum claims made inside New Brunswick last year, or this year, as of the end of September. So this is like 9 months in. And so last year's record of 295 claims in a single year. And that number was 0 less than a decade ago. I wonder what happened a decade ago to change things. The Liberals maybe got elected, maybe. So 3 months ago in August, the province set a record where 50 claims were recorded in a single month.
And I know
this
it's
is
very
unsustainable for places like this.
No, and another thing, Sheila, how many of those asylum claims do you think is legit as opposed to people jumping the queue?
It doesn't matter because they functionally all become legit. Because you make an asylum claim and they're like, okay, well, I guess now you get to go through the process, even though you came here as a temporary resident or you came here as a student. And then you get here and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm a refugee. But you're not. But the system is so backlogged that it's like, okay, well, we'll see you in 7 years. And what happens in 7 years? You get married to a Canadian, have a Canadian baby, or you just have a Canadian baby. And then that baby sponsors you in because we have birthright citizenship.
And I can tell you, Sheila, the unspoken strategy, whether it's the Liberals in Canada or what we saw in the last 4 years with the Biden-Harris administration, in which they turned a blind eye to people coming in illegally. The lowest estimate, 8 million, the highest, 21 million from what I've seen, is just a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Just remember, every 4 years, who to vote for. In the U.S., it would be blue. In Canada, it's red. That, I think, is what's really going on to rig the system.
Oh, for sure it is. I mean, it's all in an effort to turn Texas blue.
Oh, in that case, there goes the Republic.
That's it.
If that ever happens.
Yeah, just because of the amount of electoral college votes that Texas has.
Yep.
That's, if they turn Texas blue, that's it. You just, I mean, they would find themselves in the same situation that Canada finds itself in, where the election is over before the West is done voting.
And it's a real fear, Sheila, because
sure it is.
I look at the state of Colorado. That used to be a staunch Republican state.
Yep.
Then it went purple. It would alternate. Now it's blue. So don't think a state can't change fundamentally like that. And the left knows
California used to be Republican, okay? In recent memory.
Sorry, what was that, Sheila?
California used to be Republican.
100%. But
in
now the
recent
system's
memory.
rigged that you can't have that again. Yeah,
never.
Don't forget, California voted Reagan in 80 and 84.
Right.
Which seems inconceivable today.
Yeah. I mean, New York gave us Rudy Giuliani in recent memory.
And now look who New York has. Jeez.
Yeah, Mom Donnie. Okay, one last thing on the immigration front. Immigration minister is lifting work permit requirements for the World Cup.
What?
Why, you ask? I don't know. Immigration Minister Lena Diab, who doesn't know her file, as Michelle Rempel-Garner continues to expose, she suspended the need for work permits for foreign nationals working on next year's Soccer World Cup in an apparent attempt to ensure there are no glitches or delays in hosting the high-profile sporting event. These are not high-skilled jobs. These are like taking tickets, construction. And let me roll that back. Construction is a high-skilled job. I don't mean that. But a lot of these jobs are like in food service, crowd control, ticketing. These are jobs, short-term jobs that kids can do. And youth unemployment is out of control completely.
So, wait a second, Sheila. Why do we need, for the World Cup games being staged in Canada, which includes Toronto, of course, why do we need to import workers for those jobs? I can tell you this year, I think it was a record when the Canadian National Exhibition opened, the lineup for jobs, and this is just for an 18-day fair. It was, it looked like food lines from the Soviet Union back in the day. So you can't tell me there are a lot of people, even for short-term, part-time jobs, that would not want those jobs already here in Canada. Why are we importing people for those jobs?
I'll tell you what IRCC said. The work permit exemption would be brought in for certain foreign workers coming for short-term roles. Okay, but that's how they get in the door, and then they're like, I'm a refugee now.
Yep.
And they said this helps ensure that the event runs smoothly, as these workers will have specialized skills needed to manage the tournament's operations and logistics. This exemption makes the process simpler for select people invited by FIFA. FIFA is one of the most corrupt organizations in the world. I don't want their hand-selected people here. While Canada continues to protect local jobs and uphold fair labor standards.
No. You can't have it both ways. You can't import temporary foreign workers and ensure the locals get jobs too. That doesn't compute for me, Sheila. That's outrageous.
No, and especially when in the bidding process for these things, the Canadian government always says, oh, we're going to invest, which means spend, which is the opposite of investing. We're going to spend your money on something because it's going to create jobs for Canadians. It's going to create all this economic impact. But that's not what's going to happen. They're going to bring in a bunch of temporary foreign workers who are going to take their money and go back to wherever they came from. Hopefully they leave. That's the best case scenario, is they take the money and go back home. That's the best case scenario in this situation right now.
You know, we are the biggest sap in the world.
We're chumps.
I think of the Windsor battery plant, the EV battery plant, Sheila, where somehow, even if you didn't like the idea of EV battery plant, you question their, the sustainability, the return on investment, et cetera, you could always say, well, at least there's good, high-paying jobs. Yeah, like 1,600 Koreans that are working at that Windsor battery plant. And it's not because of specialized skills. I've spoken to Canadians in Windsor, and they say all of those jobs could be filled by local people in Windsor. So how did that get part of the deal, given there were tens of billions of dollars of federal and provincial money going into this, what I think will be a future white elephant?
They just dish out this money because it's in the interest of climate change. And seriously, they're like, oh, it's going to these green technologies, which, I mean, batteries are definitely not green. They don't even know how to put out the fire if a fire broke out at a battery plant. Like, it's so toxic to the firefighters. But they dish it out, no strings attached, no obligation to create the jobs in Canada, no obligation to hire Canadians. And we saw that when they, Stellantis, I think it was Stellantis, they took a bunch of federal funding in the interest of creating green jobs. And then they took the money and ran and created jobs in the United States. And in the meantime, Canadian farmers are dealing with the fallout because the federal government's protectionist tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles to make sure they protect their investment in Stellantis resulted in a retaliatory tariff on Canadian canola. But they don't care, even though the Canadian canola industry is much larger than that of the steel industry. You wouldn't know that if you followed the mainstream media coverage of this, because, steel jobs, steel jobs, steel jobs. In the meantime, the canola industry dwarfs the steel industry by billions of dollars, but we don't have any votes for the Liberals to preserve, so they don't care what happens to us. We're just sacrificial lambs.
Yeah, I think that's the other Stellantis plant in Ontario, Sheila, you speak of, the Brampton plant. And to me, that's a tragedy. And we covered the worker protests there last month, and we were speaking to them. Once upon a time, that plant turned out the Dodge Challenger and Charger and the Chrysler 300, and for a time, the Dodge Magnum wagon. It was profitable. It made those cars in sufficient numbers. When the plug was pulled on those cars, one of the guys said, I believe this was the number, they still had 158 days worth of orders. Not 158 cars, that's how many you can build in a car in a day, but they had a CEO that was committed to this green agenda. He's since been fired, and his goal was to have a Stellantis be totally EV by 2030. That's even 5 years earlier than what the federal government wants. And look what happened. This vibrant plant that was producing all those wonderful cars and winning awards, it is now vacant because with the tariff tiff, the replacement product was going to be the Jeep Compass. That is going to the U.S. now. And all those jobs, all those thousands of jobs, they are out on the dole. What a tragedy, with plenty of blame to go around, I might add.
You know, before we get into the medical assistance in dying stuff, because it's the last thing in the headline, I just want to give you some hope here, David. Nature's healing. This is from David Coletto, who still looks like he's 15 for some reason. And I know he's much, much older than that. I think he's probably closer to my age.
Okay.
From Abacus Data. I just remember seeing him on Sun News back in the day, and he had that cherubic face that he has. He still looks that way. Good for him. But only in my new piece, he says, I dig into striking findings in our latest tracking. Climate change has hit its lowest level of salience in years.
Wow.
I don't want to say my work here is done, but it's nice to see the fruits of your labor manifesting. Only 13% of Canadians put it in their top 3 issues. Yeah, because now it's real easy to morally preen about how much you care about the weather until you have to pay the weather tithe and then you're broke. And that's what happened.
But Sheila, 13% of Canadians prioritize it. Here's the question. What percentage of federal Liberals prioritize it?
All of them. And it shows how out of touch they are. the top issue for 2 out of 3 Canadians is the cost of living. And yeah, because climate change and climate change policies is one of the reasons that cost of living is so high. It factors into everything from housing to transportation to food costs, everything. Utilities, it drove that thing. And it's nice to see it so low, but it needs to be much lower.
I'm surprised that Chinese electoral interference was dead last on the list. When we have a country, I don't know what the status is now, where we have Chinese police stations setting up shop. Wow, that gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Well, there's a lot of people out there who are like, well, we had a national inquiry into it, so it's all taken care of. And it's like, we had a national inquiry into it. We didn't even air all of the dirty laundry that we should have. And then we didn't do anything and had an election. We literally didn't do anything, and then we just had an election. So, great.
Okay.
Perfect.
Now, Sheila, you wanted to get, I know you have a hard out at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. This is interesting. MAID lobby group pushing for the assisted dying of, quote, mature minors. Mature minors? That kind of sounds like jumbo shrimp to me. Isn't that a bit of an oxymoron? I mean, either you're a minor or you're the age of majority, aren't you?
It's nice to see this hitting the rest of the press, but this we've been talking about, especially in our documentary on MAID. We've been talking about this lobby group, Dying with Dignity, a bunch of ghouls over there. They've been talking about this for years. And if you think this isn't a possibility, ask yourself about the ability in many provinces, not mine anymore, however, in many provinces for children dubbed mature minors to self-sterilize.
Jeez.
Right. So you can do that in other provinces. You can't do it in mine because we're the most sane of the provinces.
You are.
But this is a thing. And the Liberals will adopt this because literally everything that Dying with Dignity has pushed in the last 20 years has come to fruition. It's just a matter of time.
But you know what kills me, Sheila, is the hypocrisy here. They'll carve out a slice of this demographic, the mature minors. So I guess they're saying, well, not if you're 12 and 13, but if you are 16 and 17.
No, they are saying 12. I want you to realize they're saying 12. Yes.
Okay, then. What's their definition of immature minors, if you will? Because where I'm going with this is if you can carve out this demographic for special treatment, why not alter the Criminal Youth Justice Act so that 16 and 17-year-olds that are guilty of first-degree murder don't get mollycoddled by, what used to be the Young Offenders Act, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, these people are trying to undo everything we know about the developing human brain, right? Like we know that your brain is still very malleable until you're like 25. That's why people in Alberta, I think it's 18 to drink. I think Ontario is 19. Is that right?
Yes. And what the story is there, Sheila, once upon a time we had grade 13 in Ontario.
Right.
And so the government didn't want,
hungover kids at school?
Yeah, but grade 13 is now long gone, so it should revert back to 18, right? But it never did.
Yeah, well, you can choose your country, like who runs the country at 18 for a reason, because we don't think you should be trusted with those decisions sooner than that. Like, you cannot get a tattoo until you're 18, unless you have permission of your parents. You can't get a piercing unless you're 18, unless you have permission of your parents. You can't vote. You can't join the military sooner than that, again, unless you have permission of your parents. But you can choose to end your life.
Yeah. Oh, no, twas ever thus we had age restrictions. Liquor, tobacco, fireworks, pornographic magazines, right? Well, then again, you can get the porn in school right now in certain school boards.
Not in Alberta. Not in Alberta.
The bastion of sanity.
Yes. It's just, all I'm saying is, while they're talking about this at Dying with Dignity, and it's everyone's like, oh, it's just a lobby group. Everything this lobby group has pushed has become reality in legislation over the last 20 years. And we are quickly outpacing the more radical regimes of the world on this, like Belgium, like the Netherlands. What they were able to do in 30 years in those countries, we've done in 7. And so it's only a matter of time, and people need to know that it's coming so that they can do something about it.
And you know what I think one of the unspoken driving forces is, Sheila? It's they want to alleviate the pressure on the healthcare system, which, as far as I can tell, gets worse and worse every year. So if you go, oh, I've got this chronic illness, you'll have the carny cabal go, well, Dave, just throw off your mortal coil. Be done with it. You won't be in any pain anymore. You won't be alive anymore, but, still do it for your country.
You can die quicker than you can see a specialist in this country.
Easy.
By months
easy.
And years. And you can die quicker than you can get the suffering addressed for the thing you need to see a specialist for. I'll give you an example. Knee replacement surgery, 18 months, maybe, depending on the province that you're in, to get a knee replacement. But you can seek medical assistance in dying for the irremediable pain caused to you by the lack of treatment for the knee replacement within 10 days, 2 weeks.
Well, as I said, Sheila, I've always thought about doing an undercover piece where I go and apply for MAID and see how quick it's approved. But my fear is once I sign that paper, when I say, oh, no, it was just a goof,
pipeline.
And they go, no. This ship has left the port. Nothing's stopping it.
It's funny, but I feel like that happens to a lot of people. And they're being told, they're sort of being coached that it's their civic duty to do this.
Yeah.
Your family is bearing this burden, and your healthcare system is bearing this burden. And so wouldn't it be easier for everybody, including you, if you just weren't here? And I've talked to the families left behind, and they're saying, absolutely not. We'll bear the suffering together. We're just a place that doesn't value life. And also we're a place that actually doesn't value suffering. Maybe it's my Catholic worldview, but we do things to make ourselves suffer just, I don't want to say for fun, but we see that there's value in suffering. It's why we spiritually fast. We fast for certain religious seasons. And, it used to be part of how society used to work, that, you sort of took on everybody else's suffering and bore it together. And we don't do that anymore. We're told that your family doesn't want to suffer with you. They don't want to help you. You shouldn't be expecting them to help you. Wouldn't you just be better off dead? And we live in a society that values comfort over everything else. And I think that's probably a terrible way to live. It's led to medical assistance in dying and all sorts of lifestyle related illnesses because we just don't want to be uncomfortable.
But Sheila, having said that, going back to this whole mature minors story, I think there's a profound difference of somebody, say, in their 90s, is cursed with all kinds of health problems. Every single day is pain. There's a difference between that and a minor who maybe they're depressed because they broke up with their boyfriend or girlfriend, and it's temporary, and they're healthy, and they're going to get over it with the passage of time. But now we're here rushing them into the suicide chamber.
Sure. And again, I don't think that medical assistance in dying should take place for any reason. I think that I'm from conception to natural death kind of person. I also believe that there are times where you could choose to not proceed with care while also not doing anything to expedite the death of somebody. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But yeah, like kids, we realize that their feelings are transient.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't want to say, okay, well, maybe you're not just a tomboy, maybe you're a boy. Yeah. Because a lot of times the thing that they're blocking is the actual cure. Like you're blocking puberty, and puberty is actually the cure for why you're feeling so weird about yourself right now. And you're dealing with kids who are, their brains are just like a tornado of hormones, and it's causing all sorts of psychological and emotional issues. And time is the cure.
Yes.
But you're not giving them the time. Anyway, it's hideous. It's hideous.
Sheila, as they say down at the hockey game in the late in the third period, last minute of play, I think we might have some super chats, and then we have to let you go.
Wrap her up. Yeah, you too. You got a story to get to. Alex Greer gives us $2.99. I just see he sent us an emoji, and then gives us another $2.79 and says, "Great work, Rebels." Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, Pooh Back Girl Puff Daddy, as if that's your real name, gives us $5 and says, "I'm so proud of you both, Menzoid and Gunny. I'm proud of Ezra and all the Rebel reporters. What motivates you two to keep going, especially with the flack?" I'll go to David.
Oh, that's a very easy question for me. It's simply this. I am absolutely thoroughly incompetent in every other facet of life. I mean, you know, and I'm not kidding. I go to Home Depot maybe to pick up a pack of batteries, and I see a real man come in. He's buying lumber and electrical supplies. I know he's going home to build this elaborate treehouse for his kids. I don't even know how to hold a hammer properly. So without this, I have nothing. Sheila, what's your answer?
Well, unlike you, I am actually competent. I can build things and take things apart and fix things. In fact, one time, Lyndon was with me. He works in finance at our company, and I tore apart my own air conditioning and fixed it. With whatever I had. So I am competent. So it's not as though I don't have any other options. In fact, I was very reluctant to become a journalist, but I feel like this is my opportunity to, in my own way, sort of bring order out of the chaos, or to make things better. Or maybe if what I'm saying helps one of you at home say, yeah, I think that too, and I'm not crazy for feeling that way. And I'm a lot of times I'm impervious to the insults, and because of that, and I think that's because I sort of lean on my Christian faith, you know, like Jesus said, if the world hates you, know that they hated me first. It's okay to not be liked. If you know that you're right and everybody hates you, that's okay. That's okay. Don't bend.
But by the same token, Sheila, we all know this journalism shtick. This is just a training camp for you because, folks, in a year, 2, maybe 3, Sheila will be running for the Senate in the province.
Don't give Ezra ideas again. I'm not going to be the figurehead of another Ezra Levant puppet scheme where he takes control of the Senate. I don't. Last thing I want to do is be a politician. I never want to be in government. I want to make sure that government is working for the people. And if you take the good people, and I think I'm doing an okay job, I can always be better at journalism. If you take me away, I'm sure there are other people behind me, and hopefully I'm doing my best to tutor the people who would come behind me one day, because I hope to not have to do this until I'm in my grave. But it's like, if the cat's away, the mice will play, and the mice is the government, and I'm the cat. So. Well,
it's too bad. I think you'd win, and I think you'd be
for sure. I would. Yeah. For sure, I would. Let's keep going. We got one more. This is from the same chatter. $10. I'm deeply disappointed in the RCMP. Their actions in the trucker convoy in the ostrich farm and harassing rebel reporters is deplorable. Do you get insiders off the record that share this disgust? I'll go with David first, and then I've got a unique perspective on this.
I can tell you, and it's happened a few times, an RCMP officer will come up to me, and it's off the record, and he will, well, in my personal case with what happened to me when Fraulein Freeland sicked the RCMP on me in Richmond Hill back in January of 2024, they say words to the effect of, I've never been more ashamed to be part of the service than that. And so there are men and women, boots on the ground, that do not like the politicization, just like what we have in Toronto. Hamas is basically running the Toronto Police Service, okay? And it's coming down from the brass, but there are a lot of great cops on the ground that don't like what they're doing. That's been my experience. And you know what? I'm so grateful to hear that, because it tells me this is not some monolithic group thought that we're anti-independent media, that they do appreciate what we're doing. That's what I have to say, Sheila.
Yeah. It's no secret to regular viewers of the show that I have RCMP members close to me, and in my family. I have friends and family that are in the RCMP, and I think the vast majority of RCMP officers do not like politicization of the force. I think they resist the wokeness. I think that the majority of them get into policing to truly make their community safe. I mean, especially in a time where crime is rising. Imagine being an RCMP officer who arrests a dirtbag in the morning, and then you're arresting him in the evening again because some justice of the peace let him out on no cash bail. And you're I'm putting on, I'm putting on a bulletproof vest, kissing my wife and kids goodbye, going out and doing a dangerous job. And thanks to the Liberals, I get to arrest the same loser who's victimizing my community 3 times a week.
It's unbelievable.
Imagine the frustration of these cops. They are living with the fallout of the bad Liberal policies in Ottawa. I think the vast majority of police officers are people who like the same things we do, who are at the gun range, who want to be left alone, want to make a dent in crime, and don't want a police speech. I think most of them joined because they care about defending the civil liberties of Canadians and your rights to be left alone. And I think that's why they got into policing. But I will note that you see the same bad guys over and over again. You see the same bad cops over and over again. And those guys trade on the reputations that the good cops built. You know, the good cops are making a difference in your community, doing the right thing, the kids playing in your hockey team. They have good reputations. They do good work. And the bad guys are like, I'm wearing the same uniform as them, so respect me. And it's always the Officer Bubbles types.
Oh,
always.
You're reading my mind.
Yep.
Well said, Sheila. Well, is that the last super chat?
Yeah, it's the last one.
All right. Well, thank you for braving this last hour, Sheila.
Yeah.
I believe it's you and Lise. Let's all pray for Sheila, folks, that she gets rid of this
great.
terrible stomach bug.
I'm rallying.
So they'll be taking over tomorrow, and I'll be back on Friday with the Rebel live stream panel discussion. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Thank you for those who gave a donation. Some were very generous. We really appreciate that. And as always, stay safe and stay sane.
Next question.
Who cares? I mean, it's a detail. It's a detail. I spoke to him. I'll speak to him again when it matters. I mean, the sort of, comme j'ai dit, nous sommes très occupés. Nous sommes très, très occupés avec l'avenir du Canada. Nous sommes maîtres chez nous et avec les nouveaux partenariats. Et il y aura des conversations, oui, avec le président et moi, probablement dans les prochaines 2 semaines. Mais on attend I'm always happy to. Sorry, I slipped into French because I anticipated the en français thing. I look forward to speaking to the president soon, but I don't have a burning issue to speak with the president about right now. When America wants to come back and have the discussions on the trade side, we will have those discussions. I'm going to answer a potential question here, and then I'll pass back, which is, for example, with respect to Ukraine and the 28-point plan. We are a core member of the Coalition of the Willing. You would have seen a demonstration of that yesterday with the meeting of European leaders, a core group of European leaders, the Prime Minister of Japan, ourselves, and which formed a common position. And that common position is communicated. Our national security advisors are meeting today in Geneva, including Canada's, and the common position communicated to do the additional work that's required on the peace plan there. Each of us do not need to call President Trump and communicate that position. We need to forge that position. That position's been communicated. The follow-up is being done by our national security advisors. I will be speaking with President Zelensky later today just to close the loop on some aspects of that. Okay.
Big news! Rebel News now has premium memberships on X, Locals, and right here on YouTube. For just $4.99 a month on YouTube, you'll get loyalty badges, custom emojis, and access to members-only chats during our live streams. At $8.99 a month, you'll also unlock Rebel News Plus shows and our documentaries. But here's the catch. YouTube could cancel that premium tier at any time. That's why the best way to support us is at rebelnewsplus.com. It's just $8 a month, cheaper if you go annual, and you'll get exclusive extras like an ad-free site, comments access, and even the chance to submit op-eds. Wherever you join us, thanks for keeping our independent journalism alive and strong.